Hey everyone, so today I wanted to show off a bedder that my dad and I made a few years ago. It's all made out of wood and we just kind of screwed it together with some wood screws. It would probably be better to make it out of metal, but when you just got scrap wood hanging around, it's probably one of the easiest things to use. And it's held together pretty well. I think we used it for 2 or 3 years and it's seen some pretty heavy use. It has only had a few little kerfuffles where maybe some of the screws started to pull out, but other than that, it's held together pretty well. The wood's maybe starting to rot now, but yeah. So here's the top part of it, and you can kind of see we have the two boards just kind of angled in. They're 30 inches apart at the end, so it makes about a 30-inch row. You can see there's a couple more boards up at the top, and those are angled in, kind of give it more support, and they also the idea was kind of push the dirt in. I think if I was going to do this in the future, I might use some wire to kind of make like a rake that kind of rakes it out as it goes, because otherwise you kind of get a U-shaped bed or a cross section that kind of is U-shaped. Now here's another angle on the back part of it. You can kind of see those two boards that kind of angle in at the top, and they kind of work. But like I said, I think some wire rakes would make it work a little bit better to kind of rake it out and make it a little bit flat across the top. Now here's another shot kind of showing more towards the front where it attaches to the rototiller. You can kind of see it's cut down so that the back plate on the rototiller can kind of set up there. I think that's about as high as we can get that to go. We didn't want to take the back plate off of it. And then you can kind of see in the left side, you can see we have two boards that kind of sandwich there, and we just use a rope to tighten it down so it doesn't fall off of the tiller. Now here's kind of a hard to see shot, but in the what it's basically showing is we've had a little bit of trouble with the with debris and stuff getting wedged in between the actual tiller, the box, sort of the frame of the tiller and the frame of the bedder, and that can kind of cause some problems because it'll start to kind of push out at the bottom. And I don't think you'd have that much trouble if it was made out of metal, but with the wood, it kind of creates a problem. And here's just sort of how that ratchet strap goes on the back. This just kind of supports the back of it so it doesn't sink down too far. And also kind of is a handhold so someone can stand on it. And here's another shot of the rope that kind of wraps around those two boards that sandwich it on. And it just kind of crosses over and sandwiches it on the other side too. And here's the third ratchet strap, which basically just supports the bottom and keeps it from riding up too high. Otherwise, the back of the board will start to lift up and you won't get as nice of beds. And that ratchet strap just goes around the front of the tiller. And here's some beds that we made with it. You can kind of see that they rise up a little bit. We had to go through with a rake and kind of rake them out. I think those wire rakes on the back of it would help a little bit. But overall, it makes some pretty nice raised beds. I would say that it does pretty comparable to some of the commercial bedders, except that, of course, it doesn't lay out drip tape and plastic mulch like those would. Um, so that's the only downside. Here's another shot of the beds. One other downside that I just remembered is that there's not a lot of weight with the wood, so you kind of have to have someone standing on it. We tried using cinder blocks, but it vibrates so much that the cinder blocks just fall off, and there's not really a good place to set them on there and tie them on. So that's really the only two downsides. It doesn't hold together as well as metal, um, and it is a little bit too light. I'll show a video of me riding on it in a second. And just for comparison, here's a bedder that we were using, and this thing works really well for making single rows, but if you're trying to do like a bed of lettuce or if you're trying to do double rows of anything, um, the wooden bedder works a lot better. But this is really nice for doing just single rows or if you're planting potatoes or something like that. It's basically two discs with a little sweep that goes down the center and makes a little spot to throw your potatoes or your plants into.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to really show with that. It took about an afternoon to build. We just made it out of some scrap lumber, so I don't think it really cost us anything to make. And it's worked pretty well for the past few years that I've used it. I mean, I think the biggest area that I used at one time with it was maybe about an acre, just putting rows out. And it did fine. I think towards the end, some of the screws were starting to come loose, but other than that, I mean, for just being made out of wood, it's worked pretty well. So, anyways, if you have any ideas on how to make this better or, you know, improvements or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a thumbs up. And that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.